Well, you know they say that fences make good neighbors. Good fences make good neighbors, right?
I know it well.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well, I need to start fence shopping. I need a good fence. Let me tell you.
You got a neighbor issue?
I got a neighbor issue. Oh, welcome to Unclear Thinking, everybody. By the way, I'm from the outskirts of the bustling city of Augusta, Georgia, on the South Carolina side. I'm Larry Smoke. And over there in the booming metroplex of St. Matthew, South Carolina, on the other end of this Google Hangout, is Anthony Goodrow. Say hello, Anthony.
Hello, Larry, and hello, everybody listening.
Yeah, my driveway separates my yard and my neighbor's yard, and he has a farm truck and his wife's car and a boat, and he always has company parked in his driveway. So every morning, instead of getting some of the stuff moved and him using his own driveway, he drives around behind his house and comes out my driveway. Which probably doesn't really hurt anything, but it's the principle of the thing. I mean, if he'd asked, I might not. Well, I probably would have cared too then, but it's the principle of the thing. And and I could make a stink over it, but I got to live next to the guy, so is it worth making a stink over? And then it's just probably easier if I just get a fence and just stick him on his own side of the yard.
Well, neighbors can be so unpredictable because if you do say something, it could easily get worse.
I feel a little bit like a wimp for not saying anything, but as I said, is it worth raising a stink over? Okay, I get him to stop using my driveway, but then every time we see each other in the yard, I get the stink eye, or he starts throwing garbage on my side of the property or whatnot. And I know, the golden rule, not necessarily taking it as far as the golden rule as we learned it in Sunday school, but for crying out loud, if everybody just thought for a second, okay, how is what I'm about to do gonna affect somebody else? And I'd wager 70% of the crap that we have between each other as fellow members of the human race could be solved with that one little character trait change right there.
That's probably the biggest problem I have with people overall, when you realize that what that person just did is an indication that they have absolutely no concern about how their actions affect other people. Mm-hmm. And that's a big frustration for me.
Hey, we've said that we're a couple of social reprobates before, but I guess this is just another glowing example of it. But this would be a great world if we could just get rid of all the people.
Well,
it's a good thing you're not people, because I don't like people, and that's. I don't know if I could hang around with you if you were people, so it's a good thing you're not people.
Well, if there were a way we could selectively remove those people from us, you'd think with technology today, somebody in the military-industrial complex somewhere, they're working on something that could help us get rid of these people.
Just press a button.
Press a button and let them all turn to vapor. That would work for me.
Would you like to play a game? Yes, I'd like to play Wipe Out the Neighbor. Inputting coordinates.
That reminds me, my pet peeves with people are multitudinous. But somewhere near the top of the list, and this is something I deal with occasionally, but it always stands out in my mind because it just hits me wrong every time. And that's when people have a tendency to want to out-exaggerate me. Like, for example, I might say, man, it feels like 150 degrees out there. And their response is, no, it feels like 200 degrees out there. Wow. You really put it in perspective.
There wasn't there a gig on Saturday Night Live? Kristen Wiig. She was the one that was one up in everybody. That was an ongoing skit.
Oh my goodness! I'll have to look that up because that's right in my wheelhouse of pet peeves. Or it's big football game this weekend. I hope we beat them by 50 points. No, we need to beat them by 100 points. Yep, there you go. Congratulations.
That's a sign of a pretty shallow ego right there.
I'll tell you another situation that happened not too terribly long ago that when people try to out-exaggerate me. I've got a saying I came up with about myself that I like to use. It's kind of funny, but it's not self-aggrandizing. It's more self-deprecating than anything about me. But even that was ruined by a person. I was talking to this. I'm not going to be any more specific than this person.
Okay.
It was about a situation wherein I knew what was going to happen. It was kind of a tricky situation, and I knew what the outcome was going to be. X was going to happen. I was going to respond with Y. Z is going to happen. I'm going to respond with what comes after Z? A?
It was Z to the power of B. How about that?
Yes. And in the end, I'll lose. And it's not the reason I can tell. This is a flaw of mine. And that's why it turns out that way. It's not that I'm losing because of how I am. And I understand that about me. This is a flaw I acknowledge. But the saying is, I've been me for a long time, so I know how this turns out.
I can empathize with that.
It's, I've seen how I act, and I've seen how my reactions and actions come back to hurt me, and I understand that. I still do it. It's not something that's easily fixable. But the response I got for that was, well, I've been me for even longer.
Oh, God.
And I would, first my eyes filled with blood. And it was all I could do to keep from losing it.
You're describing somebody who is painfully starved for affirmation.
Oh, immeasurably. And you're exactly right. You're exactly right on that. But that's a perfect example of how I'm challenged in that area so often, and I'm so flawed that I step right into it, and it's almost like I'm asking for it, and that person's there every time, just to hammer it home. But thankfully, one of my flaws isn't lashing back out at people yet. But I'll tell you another one, and I don't know if this bothers people like it does me. I tend to be in my own world on the road when I'm driving, in the sense that I'd like to just be able to drive how I want to drive, and people just leave me alone. And every day I drive a 4-lane highway to work and back. And here's what I find a lot of times. I'll be in my lane on cruise control. I use cruise control for the most part. And I lock in, speed limit is 55, I lock in on 63 every time. And another car will come up behind me in the left lane, in the other lane to pass, and as soon as they get right next to me, they slow down and then start going my speed. Is that something that happens to you? It just seems like it happens to me an inordinate amount of time.
I'll tell you something I've noticed, and somebody somewhere's got to do a doctoral thesis on it with math that's way over my head. I can be on the interstate, and like you, set to cruise, and gradually come up behind somebody, and not even touch the cruise, touch the accelerator, touch the brake, nothing. All I'm doing is changing lane, gently sliding to the left to go on around the guy. Without fail, he speeds up.
That is the other incarnation of the issue.
Is that a human trait? Is the driver consciously or unconsciously accelerating? Is that some manifestation of aerodynamic drag that me moving out from behind? I don't know. I'm stupid. But
that's the question. That's what I don't know. Are they in such a cocoon
competitive
that they don't realize they're doing it, but they just I don't know. Or you could be right. It may be a competitive thing. That person's not passing me or something like that. But I don't understand why. I want my distance from you. Either let me go or move on. Because people are bad enough about driving anyway these days. It's just getting worse and worse. And I don't want anybody right next to me doing that rate of speed. So one check of the phone, one text message, and we're trading paint all of a sudden. Another thing that's bothered me a good bit lately is, I at work, I work with other people, obviously, but for the most part, I tend to work alone. So, and there are times when I don't have to communicate with people a lot. So I'll put my earbuds in, or I'll put one earbud in, so I can hear the phone ring or whatever. But I tend to listen to either a book or a podcast or something, not music. Because music I can stop and go at any time. But when I'm listening to a podcast, I'm into it. I'm listening to it. It has a flow, and things are said in context. And if you miss something, you got to back up and listen to it. And make sure you didn't miss anything important that's going to mean something, down the road in the podcast. Not necessarily in life, but in the podcast. But invariably, within 5 minutes of me putting my earbud in, somebody will come up to me and want to talk to me. I'm clearly listening to something.
And the earbud is a signal. Back off, dude.
You would think, wouldn't you? It is to me. I don't bother people wearing headphones or earbuds. I get it. I get it. And it's always some asinine comment that I've got to miss and pull up my phone and back up and see where I've stopped listening. But here's what I started doing. I just did this the other day, and this guy comes up to me, and I can tell he's coming to talk to me because he has nothing else to do. He starts talking to me, and I put up one finger, my index finger. I could put up another finger, but I'm not there yet. I give him my wait a second finger.
Right.
To make him stop, I slowly pull out my phone from my pocket. I wake it up. I pull up the podcast app. I hit the pause button. I take my earbud out, and I say yes. You know, I make him wait. He realizes what I'm doing, but it doesn't stop him. Oh, I lifted weights yesterday. Man, congratulations. I wondered what you did yesterday. I was just sitting here thinking, wonder what he did yesterday.
Now, when the human race gets to where we've evolved into telepathy, that's when the situation you just described, you would also be emitting a mental red, yellow, green type signal. Like red is stay away from me. And yellow is, okay, you can take your chances, and I might be receptive to your offer of conversation, but don't be shocked if you get an earful. And then green is, by all means, I'm receptive to your conversation. Let's have a word. That would save a whole lot of hassle between the human race. What you think?
I would call that my aura of approachability.
There you go.
What do you think of that?
No, that's good. There you go. Trademark. Anthony Goodrow, 2014.
Documented. But I like your color scheme now. Red, unapproachable. Yellow, this better be good. Green.
Green is, okay, let's chat.
Yeah, I'm ready.
That's simple enough that even the folks that we're griping about should be able to understand it.
I'll tell you something that an annoying habit I see people do a lot. It just happened over the weekend. And there are plenty of things to complain about on Facebook, but they're all kind of trite by now. But have you ever seen somebody ask something on Facebook or on the internet anywhere in a message board or something that they'd get their answer a lot more quickly if they would Google it? They're on the internet, so Google brags about how quickly they respond and how many results they give you. 187,000 results in 0.23 seconds. But rather than do that, they make a post on Facebook. My iPad keeps cutting off. What's wrong with it? Or how do I make my iPad stop cutting off? And I want to say, why don't you just copy and paste that sentence into Google, and you will have 6 figures of answers at your fingertips.
That would be much more concise and correct than any I could give you.
Oh, exactly. I could do it for you, but I'd rather you learn. I'd rather give the man a fish. No, I'd rather teach him to fish.
Teach him to fish. There you go. But then he'll be coming back to you for more fish later, and you don't want to be a fish market. We've had that discussion before. Folks in general don't know how to work social media.
No, that doesn't seem to be getting better either.
I mean, that's probably matter of fact, I'm not even going to start because that could be the subject of another show. So
write that down.
So I'm going to pocket that. I'm going to table that subject for the moment.
Please do. We can get into it way more depth than that. And also, I acknowledge that these things I've listed, the things I've talked about, are primarily faults of mine. That how I don't handle people very well, but they're still annoying. I can still come out and say they're annoying because they are. But that's all part of who I am.
Well, I think in summation, we can probably both remind the world that we should be congratulated for all the effort we've put into not becoming serial killers.
No participation trophy necessary. I was on the front lines. Along the same lines of the people that annoy me are the people that work in stores where you spend your money and they question what you buy.
Yeah, I guess that would.
I'm spending my money in your store. I understand you might not own the store, but you have a vested interest in the success of your store, and you are expected to act like it. So one incident that stands out in my mind is, you remember back in the old days when you had to rent videos from Blockbuster?
Of course.
I was in Blockbuster one day, and I was buying my child one of those books that they used to come out with to help you with a video game.
Oh, yeah.
the game guides.
I've bought a few of those myself.
This, I don't remember.
Like in the
which one
last
it
year or
was.
two.
This, and for some reason I was alone. Maybe my son had given me the money.
Mm-hmm.
He had gotten birthday money. He'd sent me to the store, but I was by myself. So I pick up this game guide, and I go put it on the counter. And the guy, he's a young guy, looks at me and says, "You need a book to get through that game?"
Oh, God.
Well, here's what I wanted to say. Of course, I said, no, not really. I just wanted to buy it or whatever. Here's what, take my money, please, so I can get out of here humiliated. But in my mind, I said, do you really want to go there? I mean, are you really? I understand your intent is to bolster your own ego by making yourself seem smarter than me. But let's look at the situation here. You work at Blockbuster.
And ain't that enough right there?
You're not dominating the world just yet. I didn't even want to go into who it was for because it wasn't his business. He should have said, "Here, if your total is so and so, I give the money." But you work at Blockbuster. Do we have to go further than that?
Yeah, you ran into yet another case of a sad soul who was in desperate need of some positive affirmation. If that's all it takes to inflate his sense of superiority, you're probably providing a public service by meekly submitting to him at that point.
And that's a good point. For the most part, I really don't mind that too much intellectually, but on the spot, emotionally, that's hard to swallow.
Oh, yeah.
In those situations, but really, in all truthfulness, if their self-esteem is so bad that they need to be lifted up that way, I'll be that guy for you. Sure, why not? So I have to lose. I don't know the guy.
Yeah, we've spent this whole session now grumbling about wretchedness of and the lack of social graces of the human race, and I guess, hey, let's face it, we got to live with them. It'd be easier if we could all get along, and I guess if we didn't care, the stuff wouldn't aggravate us. So we do this in an effort to soften the evil nature of the human race and make us all more amenable to each other's positive graces and vibes and yada yada yada. You get my drift.
I understand completely.
In the meantime, I'm still shopping for a fence.
Do it for yourself. Do it for your neighbor. Do it for the neighborhood.
Like a good neighbor. Stay over there. and when I start shopping for a fence, I won't ask you about it on Facebook Messenger. I will find it on my own.
I'll tell you what I'd do for you. I would Google it for you.
You're a saintly soul, Anthony Goodrow.
Well, I like the camera guy. Despite what goes on in my head in private.
Well, on that note, before we get any death threats or anything via our respective Twitter accounts, let's call this an evening. Any hostility you have to direct towards him, it's at Anthony Goodrow on the Twitter. Any you want to vent towards me, it's at LA Smoke on the Twitter. Keep checking back here for more episodes of Unclear Thinking, hopefully every week, and we'll get together again in a week or so and try to improve the world some more. How about that?
Sounds good, Larry. Look forward to it.
Good night, everybody.